But Ibrahim, he was a little bit different than your average customer, because he didn't accept anything that he was told. He wanted to examine it and check and see if it was valid, no matter what it was. And he would always look on things with that perspective. And so when he was very small, he would climb up on the backs of some of the statues that his father was working on. And one day his father came out of the back and found him sitting on top of a big statue that he had made, and riding it like it was some kind of horse, as a small boy would do. And his father pulled him off and threw him on the ground until he grazed his knees and screamed on him. "What are you doing, Ya Ibrahim? You don't have basic sense. Don't you know what this idol is?" He said, "No, I don't know what it is. Enlighten me." His father said, "This is Marador. He is the greatest of the gods." And Ibrahim just said, "Well, why has he got such big ears?" "I mean, they're bigger than mine, they're bigger than yours. In fact, they're bigger than the old guy who lives down the road." And I thought I'd seen the biggest ears when I saw him. And he said, "You ignorant child. His big ears are evidence of his great knowledge." And Ibrahim just fell down on the floor laughing, making his father even more angry, because his father, like all fathers, wanted his son to follow in his footsteps, not only to become a maker of idols, but maybe to even elevate that and become a priest of this idol-worshipping religion. And it was clear from the very start that this was going to be an uphill battle for his father. You can imagine most boys living in the area, if they had been in Ibrahim's position, you know, maybe playing in the sandpit if they had that kind of thing back then. And one boy saying to the other boy, "You know, my father is so pious. He goes to the temple every day. He leaves his work, he leaves his family, and he goes there and he prays to all the idols, and he gives his supplication to them just to benefit my family, and my family is so prosperous because of this. Surely my father is a blessing on us." Another boy would say, "Oh yeah? Well, my father takes most of our food and gives it as an offering to these statues every night." A boy in Ibrahim's position would just stand up and wipe the dirt off his nose and say, "Well, my father makes the statues that your father prays to and your father brings food to." But Ibrahim was not like that. If he had been in that situation, with his perspective, he would have said, "Your father is a fool because he prays to those idols who don't hear him, who can't help him, and can't harm him. Your father's a fool because he is wasting your family's precious resources of food on a statue that doesn't even want to eat it, let alone look at it or do anything else with it. And my own father is a bigger fool than both of your fathers because he's making those statues." That was his opinion, even as a very small boy. And as he grew up into a young man, this opinion escalated and became more sophisticated. And he would openly question the people around him of all the religions and keep asking them questions, and he was never satisfied with the answer he got. And then one day, in order to figure out exactly what it was that he believed, because he knew he didn't agree with the others, he climbed up to a mountain and found a cave, and he sat there for a few days, resolved not to come down until he had figured out exactly what it was that he felt, because all he knew was it was different from what they felt. And during this time at night, he saw a star ascend into the sky, brighter than the others, and he says, "Surely this is my Lord." Maybe because it wasn't made by man like the statues. But then when the star went down later in the night, he changed his mind. He said, "I don't love those things that set." He was feeling that a God should be with you all the time. You can't talk to the God if it's gone off the other side of the world. And when the night had finished and the sun came up and it just illuminated the darkness that he'd become accustomed to as he sat all night thinking, he was inspired, as I suppose many people have been inspired through the eons of human history when they saw the sun. And he said, look how brilliant this is. We had darkness and it has brought so much light and life, and so many things are clearer when the sun appears. Surely this must be my Lord. And he watched it ascend into the sky and then go again, and the sky changed color and it disappeared, and he said again, I don't love those things that set. And he did the same thing with the moon. And then he started to realize that he came up the mountain to get away from those belief systems of his people, and here he was starting to even come on the edges of one of them, of those people who worship the celestial bodies, the stars and the planets, the sun and the moon. And he said, surely if my Lord doesn't guide me, I will become one of these lost people. He really didn't know what he believed, and then he suddenly started to realize, perhaps my Lord is a Lord that you can't see, and perhaps these things that I'm observing are signs of that Lord. They are his creations. And so when he came down the mountain, he was convinced. He knew exactly what he believed. He was not confused anymore. Unlike prophets that came after him, he did not receive a revelation in the cave. The angel Ibrahim did not come to him and give him revelation, did not say to him, Iqra. He figured it out on his own. Maybe you can get an idea from this why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loved him so much and considered him later on to be his intimate friend later in his life, because he didn't need to receive any revelation to come to the understanding of the concept of Islamic monotheism. When Ibrahim came down the mountain and came to his people, he straight away started spreading the message that he had, because he was armed with such powerful logic. He was prepared to go to all of these people, and the first people he went to were the people who were worshipping the stars and the planets, the sun and the moon. He told them, surely you can see these are the creations of a greater being. These are not creating themselves. They don't stay with us, they move around. They are moving in some sort of logic. They are creations, just like many other things are creations. These people didn't want anything to do with him. He couldn't prove it. They didn't understand that logic. And like most people, they would be forced to change their position, and people are inherently afraid of change. And so he simply said to them, I reject your belief. I have tried to convey the message to you. You have rejected it. I reject what you believe. He went next to his own father, and he was very careful and very diplomatic, and he told his father that he loved him very much and he wanted to save him from a terrible torment that he was certain would belong to him because he was worshipping the wrong gods. He said, the real God is going to punish you for these things, Father. These statues that you are making, you yourself know where they came from. You took some stones, you took some wood, you took some animal bones. Surely you don't think that just because you did some things with your hands, they became gods? That you should ask for help? As a boy, Ibrahim had pushed statues over and sat there and watched them to see if they'd get themselves up again. He tried all that. He listened to the people, and he analyzed and he checked it out. He tested them. Almost like the Mythbusters. Just to test it. No, busted, 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 busted. They can't hurt me, can't harm me. Can't even help themselves or harm themselves. They don't have eyes to look at me, they don't have a mouth to speak, except what we have carved.